Right in the middle of dinner, my daughter leaned toward me, smiling for the others, and whispered through her teeth, "Dad, do not eat here. You are an embarrassment." The table went silent for a second. A couple of guests looked down, others let out a held-back laugh. I stood up slowly with my face burning. I walked toward the kitchen, alone, humiliated. But there, in the shadows and among the still warm plates, I found the papers and messages that could destroy all their fake smiles. If this story touches your soul, subscribe. Every day there is a new story that could be yours. Tell us where you are listening from. The knife screeched against the porcelain. A small sound, almost nothing, like a fingernail scratching on a chalkboard. But Lisa closed her eyes as if I had stabbed a piece of glass into her ear. My name is William. I am 81 years old. I was a shipbuilder for 43 years in the Baltimore shipyards. I built ships with these hands. I raised a family with my sweat. I buried my wife Martha 2 years ago. That night I was sitting at my daughter's table, wearing my only good suit, the same black suit I wore when I put Martha in the ground. And my daughter looked at me as if I were a stain on her imported linen tablecloth. I cut another piece of meat. I chewed slowly, with my mouth closed, just as my mother taught me when I was a child. But Lisa gripped her fork so hard I saw her knuckles turn white. She watched me chew like someone watching a cockroach cross the table in the middle of a gala dinner. 12 people around the table. 12 strangers dressed in formal wear, with their imported perfumes and their gold watches shining under the chandelier lights. I looked at them and they looked at me. Or rather, they looked right through me, as if I were made of glass, as if I did not exist. Judge Patrick Taylor, with his impeccable gray suit and Italian silk tie, was talking about a famous case he had won. Amanda Miller, the socialite from the wealthy district, had shaken my hand upon arriving like someone touching a dirty rag on the floor. She wiped her fingers with a napkin afterward. Isabel, Lisa's cousin, smiled at me from the other side of the table with those perfect white teeth that hid pure poison. The in-laws Arthur and Mary did not even say hello to me when they arrived. They looked at me for a second and looked away. And Carl, a partner at my son-in-law Richard's law firm, whispered something in his ear while pointing at me with a discreet gesture of his chin. I lowered my head and kept eating, like a dog that knows its place. I swallowed the bite. The sound of my throat swallowing seemed like thunder in the middle of the silence. Lisa looked at me again. This time she did not hide her disgust. She pursed her lips as if she had bitten into a lemon. She wrinkled her nose as if I smelled bad. I placed the silverware on the plate, slowly, careful not to make noise. I took the wineglass to wet my dry mouth, to do something with my trembling hands. But the glass shook between my fingers. A little bit of red wine fell on the white tablecloth. A red drop, small, insignificant, but Lisa saw it. She closed her eyes for a long second, breathing deep, controlling herself. And then she leaned toward me. I smelled her perfume before I heard her voice. That French perfume she uses, too strong, too sweet, that always turns my stomach. She smiled for the other guests while she got close to my ear, a wide smile, perfect, rehearsed in front of the mirror, the smile of an actress about to stick the dagger in. Dad. The word came out between clenched teeth, almost without moving her lips so no one else would hear. I leaned in to hear her better. I thought she was going to say something affectionate. I thought she was going to ask if I felt okay, if I needed something. But what she said was this: "Do not eat here. You are an embarrassment." 4 words. She said them slowly, separating every syllable, as if she were spitting them one by one into my face. I felt the air get stuck in my chest, felt my heart stop for a second, felt something break inside me, something deep that I did not know was still whole. She gave me a little pat on the shoulder, soft, affectionate for anyone watching from the outside, as if she had said something kind. And she returned to her conversation with Amanda Miller, laughing, drinking wine, talking about a trip to Europe, as if nothing had happened, as if she had not just plunged a knife into my heart and twisted it. A second of silence fell over the table, like a stone in a well. Amanda Miller's fork remained suspended in the air, halfway to her mouth. Judge Patrick Taylor looked down at his plate, uncomfortable, not knowing where to look. Isabel covered her mouth with the linen napkin, but I heard the giggle, that high-pitched, poisonous giggle that drilled into my ears. Carl cleared his throat and looked the other way. Richard, my son-in-law, coughed loudly, and took a long drink of wine, avoiding my eyes. The in-laws, Arthur and Mary, exchanged a quick glance, complicit, satisfied. Nobody said anything. But everyone heard, everyone saw, everyone was a witness to my humiliation. And nobody, absolutely nobody, opened their mouth to defend me. Not even my granddaughter Sophie, who was sitting at the end of the table with wet eyes, biting her lower lip until it hurt. She looked at me with those eyes that remind me of Martha, as if asking for my forgiveness. But she said nothing. Nobody said anything. The silence was worse than a scream. I rested both hands on the edge of the table. They were shaking. I felt my fingers cold, clumsy, as if they belonged to someone else. My knees failed me for a second when I tried to stand up. My heart was beating so hard I felt it in my throat, in my ears, in my temples. I felt my face burning with shame, my eyes wet, stinging. But I was not going to cry. Not there. Not in front of them. I was not going to give them that pleasure. I arranged the napkin next to the plate, carefully, with fake calm. I pushed the chair back. The screech of the legs against the marble floor seemed like a scream in the middle of the silence. Everyone watched me stand up. Everyone watched me walk toward the kitchen. Every step echoed in my head like a drum. 15 feet, 10 steps. I counted them, one by one. Behind me, the murmur returned. The voices resumed. Someone laughed. The music kept playing. The dinner continued as if nothing had happened, as if I did not exist, as if I had never been seated at that table. I pushed the kitchen door with both hands. Inside, white neon light, cold, buzzing like a mosquito trapped in a jar. Smell of roast lamb, of fresh rosemary, of hot grease. The dinner that I was not going to taste. Dirty dishes piled in the sink with leftover food. A fat fly buzzing over the dessert scraps. I leaned on the marble counter with both hands. Cold, hard, like my daughter's chest. I breathed deep. Once, twice, 3 times. I could not get enough air. I loosened the knot of my tie. I unbuttoned the top button of my shirt. My heart was hitting my ribs as if it wanted to get out. Outside, in the dining room, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, the soft music. Inside the kitchen, the silence, the hum of the refrigerator, the dripping of the faucet, and me there, alone, trembling, humiliated like a dog in the house where I live like a squatter, an intruder, a nuisance. I closed my eyes. And I saw her. I saw Martha in that same kitchen 20 years ago, dancing while she cooked. She moved her hips to the rhythm of a country song playing on the radio. She had flour on her hands, tomato sauce on her apron, her hair tied up with a handkerchief. She saw me come in from work and smiled at me with that smile that made me fall in love at 20 years old. William, she told me, love is not shown with pretty words. It is shown with presence, by being there, by not letting go of the hand when everything gets difficult. I was always present. When Lisa got sick as a child, I put cold cloths on her forehead all night, without sleeping, watching her breathe. When she graduated from college, I was in the front row, crying with pride. When she married Richard, I paid for every last flower in the bouquet, every last glass of champagne. When Martha was dying of cancer, I was there every day, every night, until she closed her eyes, but Lisa was not. Lisa was never there when she was needed, and now she kicks me out from her table like a mangy dog. What did I do wrong? I said it out loud without realizing it. My voice sounded hoarse, broken, as if it came from very far away. Where did I fail? Why does my own blood spit in my face in front of strangers? What did I do to this woman to make her hate me like this? The questions bounced off the walls of the empty kitchen. The hum of the refrigerator, the dripping of the faucet not fully closed, the echo of my own voice. There was no answer. Only silence, a heavy silence, thick, that crushed my chest. I thought of Martha, of what she would say if she saw me like this, hiding in the kitchen like a coward, trembling like a scared child. Do not let them, William, she would say with that firm voice she had. You are worth more than this. You are stronger than this. But that night I did not feel brave. I did not feel strong. I felt old, tired, defeated, broken inside into 1,000 pieces that could never be glued back together. Then I saw it. On the marble counter, among crumpled electric bills and used paper napkins, there was a brown folder. It was open in the middle, as if someone had left it there in a rush, without checking, without closing it well. I walked closer slowly. My heart started to beat faster. On the tab of the folder, written with a thick black marker, was my full name, William Sanchez, and underneath, a word that froze the blood in my veins. Guardianship. In process. My heart stopped for a second. Guardianship. I knew what that word meant. Declaring someone incompetent, taking away control of their life, of their assets, of their decisions. I reached out my hand. My fingers were trembling. I touched the paper. Cold. Real. It was not a nightmare. It was not my imagination. It was real. There was the answer. There was the reason for the looks of contempt, for the uncomfortable silences, for the way they treated me since I arrived at this house. Everything made sense now. Everything fit. And everything was worse than I had imagined. I did not want to open it. Something inside me told me to get out of that kitchen, to go up to my room, to get in bed and pretend to be asleep, to leave everything as it was, not to look, not to know, because what you do not know does not hurt. But my hands did not obey. I took the papers out of the folder, one by one, slowly. Forms, letters, printed message, bank statements. I put them on the counter and started to read. And with every line I read, with every paragraph I understood, with every forged signature I discovered, I felt the floor sinking beneath my feet, that the world was collapsing, that everything I believed about my family was a lie. What I found in that folder could destroy them all. Lisa, Richard, Isabel, everyone who was sitting at that table laughing and toasting while I drowned alone in the kitchen. But first it destroyed me. Because when betrayal comes from your own blood, from the person you carried on your shoulders and raised with love, it does not kill you all at once. It tears you apart, piece by piece, until nothing is left. 1,976. The Baltimore shipyards, under the January sun. The air smelled of salt, of rusted iron, of hot tar. I walked among the huge cranes with my yellow hard hat, my boots full of grease, my overalls stained with sweat. Then I heard the scream, "Daddy, Daddy." I looked up. There came Lisa, running among the workers, dodging cables and tools, with her black braids jumping in the wind, her knees scraped from playing in the dirt, her white dress full of stains. Martha came behind her, laughing, shouting for her to be careful, unable to catch her. Lisa reached me with her arms stretched out. "Pick me up, Daddy. I want to see the big ships." I lifted her up to my shoulders in a single movement. She weighed nothing. She smelled of chamomile shampoo and caramel. I pointed to the cargo ship we were building. "Do you see that huge ship, honey? I am building it with my hands." She clapped with her little dirty hands and shouted so all the workers could hear. "My daddy makes ships. My daddy is the strongest in the world." Sundays were sacred in our house. Martha got up before dawn to make meat pies. I woke up with the smell of onions frying in lard, of toasted cumin, of paprika, of dough browning in the clay oven. I stayed in bed a while, with my eyes closed, listening to the sounds of my home, the old radio playing country songs at full volume, Martha singing out of tune while she stirred the pot, Lisa and Brian fighting in the kitchen like every Sunday. "Mom," Brian took the spoon with the dough. "Liar." She started it first. I walked into the kitchen in pajamas, barefoot scratching my head, and Martha welcomed me with a kiss on the lips. She had flour on her nose, hands sticky with raw dough, apron splashed with sauce. "This is your family, William," she told me, looking into my eyes. "Your best work, better than any ship." And I looked at that messy, noisy kitchen, full of love and warmth, and I believed her. With all my soul, I believed her. The lake house. I inherited it from my father, who built it with his own hands when I was a child. A pine wood house facing the water, with a tin roof that rang when it rained, and a long porch where we sat to listen to the waves break against the rocks. Martha planted bougainvilleas at the entrance the first summer we spent there, purple flowers, intense, that grew to cover the entire gate and fell like a cascade of color over the fence. "This house is our soul, William," she told me one night, sitting on the porch drinking wine, watching the stars. "Promise me you will never sell it, no matter what happens." I promised her. I swore it with my hand over my heart. There Lisa learned to swim, on that rocky beach. I held her in the freezing water, and she kicked, dying of laughter, swallowing salt water. "Do not let go, Daddy. Never let go. I never let go, never. But she did. She let go of me a long time ago, and she did not even warn me she was going to do it. For Lisa's university, I did not have money. Simple as that, hard as that. The shipyards were in crisis. They had laid off half the workers. They had cut my salary to almost nothing, and law school tuition cost a fortune I did not have. One night, when Martha was already sleeping and the house was silent, I got out of bed. I walked to the closet. I opened the drawer where I kept the gold watch my grandfather left me before dying. I took it out of the velvet box. I looked at it for a long time under the moonlight coming through the window. It was the only valuable thing I had, the only inheritance. I took it to a jewelry store downtown the next day, and I sold it for what they gave me, without haggling. I did not tell anyone, not even Martha. On graduation day, 5 years later, Lisa went up on stage with her black gown and her cap. I was sitting in the front row, crying like a child, unable to stop, without shame. She ran down from the stage with the diploma in her hand, and hugged me. She squeezed me so hard my ribs hurt. "I owe everything to you, Daddy," she told me in my ear. "Everything I am is thanks to you." That was the happiest day of my life. I did not know it was also going to be the last one like that. Then Richard arrived. Tall, thin, slicked-back black hair, Italian suit, gold watch more expensive than everything I owned, a lawyer at an important firm in the wealthy district. Lisa brought him to the house one Sunday to introduce him. The first time I saw him, he shook my hand without looking me in the eyes. A loose handshake, quick, cold, like someone touching something dirty and wanting to let go fast. Afterward, he wiped his fingers on his pants. That night, in bed, when we turned off the light, Martha told me, "I do not like that man, William. He has empty eyes, like a shark. There is nothing inside." I told her she was exaggerating, that the important thing was for Lisa to be happy, that she knew what she was doing. I paid for the whole wedding, the imported Italian dress, the banquet hall for 200 people, the orchestra of 12 musicians, the flowers brought from the south, the banquet with lobster and French champagne. I sold some stocks I had saved for my old age, for hard times. I did not care. She was my only daughter. I wanted to give her the wedding, Martha, and I never had because we were poor. But now I ask myself if that was my mistake, if I spoiled her, if I gave her too much and taught her too little. The day Sophie was born, I arrived at the hospital before everyone. Before Richard, who was in an important meeting with a client and could not leave. Before the in-laws, who lived closer but took too long to get ready. I walked through the white hospital corridors that smelled of disinfectant and sickness, with my heart beating in my throat, hands sweating from nerves. The nurse came out of the delivery room with a small bundle wrapped in a pink blanket. "It is a girl," she told me with a smile. "Do you want to hold her first?" She put her in my arms carefully. She weighed less than a sigh, less than a dream. She had her little eyes closed, little fists clenched, skin pink and soft like a rose petal. Then she opened her eyes, 2 huge dark eyes, shining. She looked at me, and I felt the world stop around me, that time stopped running. "I am going to protect you always," I whispered softly, so only she would hear. "Always. No matter what happens. I swear it." Lisa, from the hospital bed, pale but smiling, looked at me and said, "Thank you, Dad." That was the last time she said it for real. Afterward, they were just empty words. The cancer arrived without warning, like a thief in the night. Martha started with stomach pains that did not go away, strong pains that doubled her over after eating. "It is nerves," she said, touching her belly. "Stress. It will pass." But it did not pass. It was weeks of pain, of vomiting, of not being able to sleep, until I convinced her to go to the doctor. The doctor sat us in his cold office and looked at us with that face doctors have when they are going to give bad news. He said the word that split my life in two. Pancreas. Pancreatic cancer, advanced. 8 months to live, he said. Maybe less, maybe a little more, but not much more. I did not sleep that night, nor the next, nor any of the nights of those 8 months of agony. I gave her the medicines at the exact time, without ever failing. I changed the sheets when she soaked them with cold sweat. I cooked her soups she could no longer swallow. I read her poems in a low voice, because they were her favorites, while she squeezed my hand with the little strength she had left in her bones. "You are my life, William," she told me with a thread of a voice. You were always my whole life. Martha's last days were in silence. She no longer spoke because she had no strength left. She no longer ate because her body rejected everything. She got so thin I counted her ribs through her transparent skin. She only looked at me. She looked at me with those dark brown eyes that I loved since I was 20, since the first time I saw her at a dance by the port. The last night I sat next to her bed like every night. I took her hand. It was cold, bony, almost lifeless. She moved her dry, cracked lips, a whisper so weak I had to put my ear to her mouth to hear. Take care of the children. Those were her last words. Then she closed her eyes. She squeezed my hand for a second, a last second like saying goodbye, and she was gone. Just like that, without noise, without drama. She left and left me alone in that room, with her cold hand between mine, with a hole in my chest that never closed and never will close. That night I screamed. I screamed until I lost my voice, until I was hoarse. I screamed the name of God, Martha's name, the name of injustice, and since that night I was never the same man again. A part of me went with her, and never returned. The funeral was a gray Saturday in August, sky covered with dark clouds, as if the world was also in mourning. Brian, my youngest son, came from Ohio on the first bus of the morning. He arrived with red eyes from crying during the whole trip. He hugged me tight, and we cried together at the cemetery gate. But Lisa arrived late. An hour late. A whole hour. She entered the cemetery walking fast, in high heels, looking at her cell phone screen. I had an important meeting with a client, Dad. I could not cancel. I am sorry. She did not cry. Her voice did not tremble. During the entire burial, while the priest spoke and read passages from the Bible, while the neighbors prayed and cried, while I shook with pain in front of my wife's casket, Lisa checked messages on her phone. I looked at her sideways and did not recognize her. That woman standing next to her mother's grave, dressed in black but with the cell phone in her hand, was not my daughter. She was a stranger, a cold stranger, hard, heartless, who wore my little girl's face but had nothing of her soul. 2 weeks after the funeral, when I still could not get out of bed without crying, Lisa called me on the phone. Dad, come live with us. You cannot stay alone in that empty house. It will be bad for you. You will get depressed. Her voice sounded sweet, worried, affectionate, like the Lisa from before, the one with braids and the dirty dress. I looked at the house around me. The green armchair where Martha sat to knit in the afternoons, the kitchen where we danced on Sundays while she cooked, the bed where she died with her hand between mine. Everything smelled of her. Everything reminded me of her. Everything hurt. Okay, my daughter, I told her with a broken voice. I am coming over. I packed some things in a small suitcase. Clothes, documents, photos of Martha, the letters she wrote me during our courtship. I locked the house. I got on the bus to Chicago. I thought my daughter wanted me close because she loved me. I thought she wanted to take care of me like I took care of her all her life. I thought that after all, after death and pain, family was family. But Lisa did not want to take care of me. Lisa wanted to watch me, keep me close, to control me, to handle me, so I would sign what she needed me to sign, to stay quiet while they took everything I had, my dignity, my freedom, the lake house that I promised Martha I would never sell, the bank accounts, my wife's memories, the love letters, the wedding ring, everything. They were going to take everything. I walked into that house in Chicago with an old suitcase and the hope of a foolish old man who still believes in his daughter. I did not know I was walking into a trap. I did not know I was walking into the wolf's mouth. I did not know that my own blood, the girl I lifted on my shoulders at the shipyard, the one who shouted that her daddy made ships, had set an ambush for me. And when I finally knew, when I finally opened my eyes and saw the truth, it was already too late. Or so I thought, because I still had one card left to play, and I was going to play it. The room they gave me was at the end of the hall, next to the washing machine. A small room, windowless, smelling of humidity and wet clothes. It is temporary, Dad, Lisa told me while opening the door, while we fixed the guest room. I walked in with my suitcase. The mattress was sunken in the middle. The sheets smelled stored away. On the wall there was a damp stain that looked like a map. I left the suitcase on the floor. I said nothing. I did not complain. I thought it was temporary. I thought in a few days they would move me to a better room. But weeks passed. and months. And I stayed there, sleeping next to the hum of the washing machine, waking up with the smell of detergent. Temporary, she told me. Lies. The only one who treated me like a person was Dolores. Dolores, the maid. A woman of 60 years, gray hair, hands rough from so much scrubbing. Every morning she brought me coffee with cinnamon, just how Martha liked it. Mr. William, how did you wake up? I sat in the kitchen while she cleaned and told me neighborhood gossip. That the neighbor across the street had separated, that the lady on the corner sold pies hiding from her husband. I laughed. She made me laugh. Sometimes she gave me homemade bread with butter, without Lisa finding out. You need to eat, Mr. William. You are very skinny. Dolores was my ally, my only ally in that house of cold walls. One day I came down with a photo of Martha in my hands. It was my favorite. Her at the lake house with the bougainvilleas behind, smiling at the sun. I wanted to put it on the shelf in the living room, next to the other family photos. Lisa saw me and came over fast. Dad, what are you doing? I showed her the photo. I want to put your mom here, with the family. She took the frame, looked at it for a second, and gave it back to me. It does not match the decoration, Dad. Better leave it in your room. I stood in the living room, with the photo in my hands. I looked at it. Martha was smiling at me. I whispered, Forgive me, my love. They do not want you here. I went up to the back room and put the photo facing the wall. I could not see her like that, smiling, while I rotted away. One night I got up to drink water. I walked barefoot down the hall, slowly so as not to make noise. Then I heard voices. They came from the living room, Richard and Lisa. I stood still in the dark, pressed against the wall. Richard was saying, Lisa, there are some excellent nursing homes in the suburbs, very quiet for people his age. We can go visit them next weekend. My heart jumped. Nursing home, asylum. That is what they wanted. To get me out of the house. But what Lisa said was worse. Much worse. Not yet, Richard. First I need him to sign some papers. Papers, that is what I was to them. A signature, a procedure, a nuisance that had to be moved. On a Monday, I arrived at the kitchen, and Dolores was not there. The coffee was in the pot, but cold. The kitchen, empty. I waited. An hour passed. 2 hours. Nothing. I asked Lisa. Where is Dolores? She did not even look at me. She was checking her cell phone on the sofa. She does not work here anymore. We fired her. I felt a blow to the chest. Why? What did she do? Nothing, Dad. She was an unnecessary expense. An unnecessary expense. The woman who brought me coffee with cinnamon, who made me laugh, who gave me bread in secret. An unnecessary expense. Dolores could not even say goodbye to me, could not even explain. They threw her out from one day to the next, like an old piece of furniture that gets in the way. Mr. Robinson lives in the house across the street, 80 years old, a widower like me, retired from the railroad. We were friends. We met the first day I came to live with Lisa. On a Tuesday he rang the doorbell. I was in my room, awake, looking out the non-existent window. I heard Lisa's voice downstairs. Mr. Robinson, my father is resting. He cannot receive visitors. Lie, I was awake. I wanted to go down, wanted to open the door, but I did not. I stayed sitting on the bed, hands clenched, feeling how they were locking me in little by little. Then I saw Mr. Robinson cross the street back to his house. He walked slow, head down. He never rang the doorbell again. Dad, we are going to buy you a new phone. This one you have is very old. It does not work anymore. Lisa told me on a Sunday, while we were having lunch. It seemed strange because my phone worked fine, but I did not argue. The next day Richard brought me a new cell phone. Small, basic, with big keys. It is easier for you, he told me with that fake smile he has. I stared at it. It did not have internet. It only made calls. And my contacts? We moved them to the new one, Lisa said. Lie. When I wanted to look for Brian's number, it was not there. Nor Ralph's, nor any friend from the shipyard. All erased. They had cut my strings. And I took too long to realize. The food started to change. Lisa served me small portions, without salt, without flavor. The doctor said, no salt, Dad. No red meat, Dad. Dessert is only for Sophie, Dad. Which doctor? I had not seen any doctor. But I did not argue. I ate what they gave me. Boiled vegetables, skinless chicken, water instead of juice. I started to lose weight. My clothes were too big. My belt no longer reached the same hole. One day, Dolores had told me, "You need to eat, Mr. William." But Dolores was no longer there. No one took care of me. No one watched me disappear little by little. One afternoon, Lisa entered my room without knocking. She was carrying some papers in her hand. "Dad, I need you to sign here. They are bank procedures." She handed me the papers and a pen. I took them. I read the title. Authorization for movement of funds. Below a line for my signature. "What is this, Lisa?" "Nothing, Dad. Paperwork to organize the accounts." I kept reading. It talked about transfers, about amounts, about authorizations. "I need to read it well," I told her. She ripped the papers from my hands. "You do not trust me, right?" Her voice was cold, hard, sharp. "After everything I do for you, you do not trust your own daughter." She left, slamming the door. The house shook. That night I went into the bathroom and looked in the mirror. I did not recognize myself. Sunken eyes, surrounded by black circles. Days-old beard, messy, white, neck skin hanging, clothes floating on a body that was shrinking. "What am I turning into?" I asked the mirror. The old man in the reflection did not answer. I thought of Martha, of how she looked at me when I came home from work. "How handsome you are," she told me, even if I was dirty with grease. She made me feel alive. Lisa made me feel dead. I washed my face with cold water. I breathed deep. I have to call Brian, I thought. I have to tell him what is happening. I looked for Brian's number on the new phone. It was not there. I searched my memory, but I had not dialed it for months, and I did not remember it completely. I rummaged through the room drawers, looking for some old notebook, some paper with his number. Nothing. Everything had disappeared. Then I understood. They had isolated me. They had cut me off from the world of my friends, from my own son. I was locked in that house without bars, a prisoner of my own blood. And the worst thing is that I had walked in alone, with my suitcase in hand, believing they loved me. But they did not love me. They needed me, which is very different. The first time the in-laws came for dinner, I sat at the table, as always. No one introduced me. Lisa introduced Richard, Sophie, even the neighbor's dog that snuck through the garden, but not me. I was there, sitting with my clean shirt and my combed hair, and I was invisible, Arthur. He looked at me once, up and down, like someone looking at a stain on the tablecloth. Mary did not even speak a word to me. We dined in silence. Well, I dined in silence. They talked about trips, restaurants, expensive wines, things I did not know, things that left me out. When dinner ended, Arthur told Richard, "You should consider a home for him. It is best for everyone." He said it in front of me, as if I did not have ears. Richard started explaining me to the guests, not introducing me. Explaining me as if I were a rare piece of furniture that had to be justified. "Mr. William lives with us for now. Sometimes he gets a little confused, you know. Age." I listened from the table, chewing slowly so as not to make noise. Confused? That is what he told them. That I was confused, that I did not know where I was, that I did not remember things. Lie. I had a clear mind, clearer than his, but no one asked me. No one asked me to speak. I was the confused old man from the back room. That was my identity in that house. That is what they had made of me. One Sunday Isabel came, Lisa's cousin, dyed blonde hair, long red painted nails, tight clothes that did not fit her. She entered without greeting me. I was in the living room reading the paper. I approached to shake her hand. "Hello, Isabel. How are you?" She looked me up and down with a frozen smile. "Oh, William, how skinny you are. Do they not feed you here?" And she laughed. A sharp, fake laugh that scraped my ears. Lisa laughed too. Both laughed, looking at me as if I were a joke. I stood with my hand extended. Then I lowered it. I went back to the armchair. I kept reading the paper, but the letters blurred. Not from tears. From rage. Another night. Another dinner. Guests from Richard's law firm. I wanted to help. I wanted to feel useful. I took the coffee pot to serve coffee, but my hand trembled. I do not know why. Maybe nerves. Maybe weakness. A few drops fell on the white tablecloth. Brown stains on the impeccable linen. Silence. Everyone looked. Lisa closed her eyes. She breathed deep. "That is why I do not want you to help, Dad. Her voice came out cold, cutting. Richard snapped his fingers and called the new maid. "Clean this!" The girl came with a rag. I stood there with the coffee pot in my hand. I wanted to disappear. I wanted the earth to swallow me. But I remained there, visible, humiliated in front of everyone. One night, Richard brought Judge Patrick Taylor to dinner. Law firm business, Lisa told me. I sat at the table, quiet, eating slowly. But at one moment, the judge mentioned some maritime contracts he was reviewing. I worked 43 years in that. It was my subject. So I spoke. I also worked in maritime contracts, Judge, in the Baltimore shipyards. I can tell you about the agreements of the 80s if you are interested. The judge looked at me with curiosity. He opened his mouth to answer, but Richard got ahead. "Dad, better not bore the attorney with old stories." And he kept talking about something else. The judge looked down. I closed my mouth. Old stories. That is what my 43 years were. Old stories of an old man who was in the way. After that night, dinners with guests continued. But I was no longer there. The table had one less chair. Mine. Lisa came to my room before the guests arrived. "Dad, better have dinner up here. It is going to be a boring meeting. Business. You won't be interested." And she brought me a plate. Always the same. Boiled chicken, white rice, vegetables without salt. I ate alone, sitting on the bed, listening to the laughter coming up from below, the clinking of glasses, the soft music, the life that went on without me. I had become a ghost who eats unsalted rice in a room that smells like a washing machine. One night, while I ate alone, the door opened slowly. It was Sophie, my granddaughter. 16 years old, long hair, sad eyes. "Grandpa, why don't you have dinner with us?" She looked at me from the door, biting her lip. I smiled. I did not want her to see me defeated. "Your mom thinks it is better this way, honey. Do not worry." Sophie entered the room. She sat on the bed next to me. "I want to have dinner with you, Grandpa." And she stayed. We ate together in silence, sharing the plate of tasteless chicken. She looked at me with those eyes that reminded me of Martha. Eyes that still had love. That night, for the first time in months, I did not feel alone. But the next day I heard the shouting. Lisa and Sophie arguing in the hall. "I told you not to go up to Grandpa's room without permission. But he is my grandpa, Mom." "Why can't I see him?" "Because this is my house, and here you do what I say." A slamming door. Sophie crying. Footsteps walking away. I sat on the bed, hands clenched. My granddaughter had tried to keep me company, and they had punished her for it. Lisa was keeping her away from me. Like she had kept Dolores away. Like she had kept Mr. Robinson away. Like she had kept Brian away. I was the contagious old man everyone had to be protected from. I managed to go out for a walk on a Tuesday morning. Lisa was at the gym, Richard at work, Sophie at school. I escaped like a thief from my own house. I walked slowly on the sidewalk, breathing fresh air. Then I saw Mr. Robinson on the corner. He approached with a worried face. "William, buddy, how are you? I have not seen you for months." I did not know what to answer. He took me by the arm and said something I will not forget. "William, I do not like how you look. They are dimming you." Dimming, that was the word. They were dimming me little by little, and I was letting them, because she was my daughter, because she was my blood, because I did not want to believe she was capable of doing this to me. That afternoon I memorized Brian's number. I repeated it 100 times in my head until it was engraved. I left the house with an excuse. I walked to the public phone in the square and dialed. 1 ring, 2 rings. "Hello?" My son's voice. My heart squeezed. "Brian, it is me, your father." "Dad, how are you? You sound strange. Is something wrong?" Silence. I wanted to tell him everything. The humiliation, the confinement, the papers they wanted to make me sign. But the words did not come out. I had a lump in my throat. "No, son. I just wanted to hear you," he insisted. "Dad, are you okay? Are you sure?" "Yes, son. I am fine." I hung up. I stood in the square with the phone in my hand. I could not tell him. I couldn't. If you are listening to this story, leave me a comment and tell me where you are watching from. Sometimes, knowing there is someone in the world who listens to me gives me strength to keep going. I went back to the house with my head down. I entered through the back door like a thief. I went up to my room. I sat on the bed. Outside, I heard Lisa arrive from the gym. "Dad, where are you?" I went down. She looked at me with suspicion. "Where were you?" "Walking," I told her. "I needed air." She did not believe me. I saw it in her eyes. That night, while I ate alone in my room, I thought about the coming dinner. The big dinner, the dinner with the judge, the partners, the important guests. Lisa had been preparing it for weeks. I knew I was not going to be invited, but what I did not know was that dinner was designed to destroy me, and that the biggest humiliation of my life was only 3 days away. I kept Martha's letters in a shoebox at the bottom of the closet. 23 handwritten letters with blue ink on scented paper. She wrote them to me during our courtship when I worked on board and spent months at sea. "My William, I count the days to see you. Last night I dreamed of your voice. I read them sometimes when I missed her too much." One Thursday I went to look for them. I opened the closet. I took out the box. It was empty. My heart stopped. I searched the drawers under the bed, behind the clothes. Nothing. I ran downstairs. "Lisa, did you see your mother's letters? The ones I kept in the box." She did not even look at me. "Dad, those old things gather dust." I threw them away. She threw them away. 23 love letters. 60 years of memory. She threw them away like trash. Martha's wedding ring. 18-karat gold, with a small emerald I gave her when we celebrated 25 years of marriage. I kept it in a red velvet box next to my bed. Every night I looked at it before sleeping. It was the only thing I had left of her. One Tuesday I opened the box. Empty. The velvet sunken where the ring used to be. I felt a chill in my chest. I went down the stairs trembling. "Lisa, your mother's ring. It is not there." She looked up from the phone. "I don't know, Dad. You surely lost it." "You know how you are lately." I stood mute. I did not lose it. I never lose anything. But I had no proof. I had no voice. I had nothing. One Friday I took out the trash. Lisa had asked me because the new maid had the day off. I dragged the bag to the bin in the patio. Then I saw something. A paper thrown among fruit peels and leftover food. I took it out. It was a photo. A photo of Martha and me at the lake house, facing the sea, hugging, smiling. But the photo was torn in half. I was whole. But Martha had been ripped out, cut, eliminated. I stood looking at the piece of photo that remained. My smiling face, my arm embracing the void. I felt I was missing air. Someone in that house was erasing Martha, erasing her from the networks, from the drawers, from memory, as if she had never existed. I stopped sleeping. I spent nights with open eyes, staring at the damp stain on the ceiling, listening to the noises of the house, the hum of the refrigerator, the dripping of the bathroom faucet, and the voices, Lisa and Richard's voices coming up from the living room at 11, at 12, at 1 in the morning, laughter, the clinking of wine glasses, soft music, the life that went on without me. Sometimes I heard my name, William this, William that. But I did not understand what they said. I only knew they were talking about me, that they were planning something. And me up there, in my damp room, unable to sleep, unable to go down, unable to do anything, like a prisoner awaiting sentencing. One Monday morning, Lisa entered my room with a glass of water and a pill. "Dad, your blood pressure medicine." I took it without thinking, but when I swallowed, I felt something strange. The pill was different, bigger, more bitter. "Lisa, this pill is not the same as the others." She picked up the glass without looking at me. The doctor changed the prescription. "It is normal." "Which doctor?" "I haven't seen any doctor." "Richard's doctor, Dad. Don't worry." She left the room. I stayed sitting on the bed with the bitter taste on my tongue. Which doctor? What pill? What were they giving me? Fear rose up my throat like bile. But I said nothing more. I had no one to tell. One night I got up to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. The white light of the fluorescent tube hit my face. I did not recognize myself. The man looking at me from the glass was not me. It was a skinny old man, with eyes sunken in dark sockets, gray skin, dirty hair, grown beard, white, uneven, protruding cheekbones, hanging neck. The man from the shipyard had disappeared. The engineer who built ships had disappeared. What was left? A scared ghost in a room that smelled of humidity. "What did they do to you, William?" I asked the mirror. The old man did not answer me. He only looked at me with eyes of a cornered animal. That early morning between sleep and wakefulness, I heard Martha's voice, clear, close, as if she were sitting on the bed next to me. "William, don't let them. You are stronger than this." I opened my eyes. The room was dark, empty, but the voice kept resonating in my head. I got up slowly. I went to the bathroom. I wet my face with cold water. I looked in the mirror again. This time I held the gaze. "You are right, my love," I told Martha, even if she was not there. "You are right. I am not going to let them." But I still did not know how. I still did not know what to do. I only knew I could not go on like this, that something had to change, or they were going to kill me little by little. One Wednesday I went out to walk early when Lisa was at the gym. I needed air. I needed to see people who did not look at me with contempt. I walked to the neighborhood market, and there I saw her, Dolores. She was buying vegetables at a stall with her cloth bag, her worn apron. When she saw me, her eyes filled with tears. She ran toward me. She hugged me tight, trembling. "Mr. William, what have they done to you? Look at yourself. You are just bones." I could not speak. I had a lump in my throat. She pulled away a little and looked me in the eyes. "They fired me because of you, Mr. William, because I defended you, because I told Mrs. Lisa to treat you better." I took her hands. They were rough, cold. "Forgive me, Dolores, forgive me." We sat on a bench in the square, away from people. Dolores spoke to me in a low voice, looking everywhere. "Mr. William, I heard things. Before they fired me, Mrs. Lisa and Mr. Richard were talking on the phone. They talked about papers, about signatures, about a beach house. They said they had to hurry before you realized." I squeezed my hands. "The beach house, the lake house, Martha's house. They also talked about a doctor," Dolores continued, "a certain Vincent and a judge. They said everything was already arranged." My heart beat so hard I felt it in my throat. "Mr. William, be careful. Those people do not love you. Those people want to destroy you." Before saying goodbye, Dolores put her hand in her pocket and took out a folded paper. "Take this. This is the phone number of attorney Ralph Henderson. Ralph, you spoke to me about him once. He is your childhood friend, right? The lawyer. Take the paper." I looked at it. A phone number written in pencil. "Call him, Mr. William. Tell him everything. He can help you." Dolores hugged me again. "Take care of yourself. I am going to pray for you." She walked away slowly with her bag of vegetables. I stayed on the bench with the paper in my hand. Ralph, my friend of 50 years. The best lawyer I know. He could help me. He could get me out of this nightmare. I walked back to the house slowly. Before entering, I folded the paper with Ralph's number and put it inside my shoe under the insole. No one was going to find it there. I went up to my room. I sat on the bed. I had to call him. I had to tell him everything. But I did not. Not yet. There was still something inside me that resisted believing. Something that told me, "She is your daughter, William. Your blood. She cannot be that bad." I wanted to give her one more chance. I wanted to wait. I wanted to be wrong. But I was not wrong. And the proof arrived 3 days later. At the dinner with the judge, when my daughter looked me in the eyes, smiled for the others, and plunged the knife deeper than anyone had plunged it in 81 years of life. I already told you what happened at dinner. The whisper, the humiliation, the walk to the kitchen. Now I am going to tell you what I found there. Because that was what changed everything. I pushed the kitchen door with trembling hands. The neon light buzzed like a mosquito. It smelled of roast lamb, of rosemary, of hot grease. The dinner, which I was not going to taste. I leaned on the marble counter. I breathed deep. My heart beat against my chest like a fist. Behind the door, the laughter, the voices, the clinking of glasses, the life that went on without me, and me there, alone, with my face burning with shame, trying to understand what I had done to deserve this. Then I saw it. The brown folder. Open on the counter. It was among electric bills and used napkins, as if someone had left it there in a rush without realizing. I walked closer slowly. I saw my name on the tab, William Sanchez, written with black marker, in big letters, and underneath a word that froze my blood, guardianship. In process. Guardianship. I knew what it meant. Declaring someone incompetent. Taking away control of their assets, of their decisions. of their life. I reached out my hand. My fingers were trembling. I touched the paper. Cold, real. It was not a nightmare. It was not my imagination. It was real. And everything Dolores had warned me about was there, in that folder, waiting for me to discover it. I opened the folder. Inside, there were papers. Many papers. Forms, letters, printed messages, bank statements. I took them all out. I put them on the counter. My hands were shaking so much some fell to the floor. I picked them up, I started to read, and with every line, with every paragraph, I felt the ground sinking beneath my feet, that the air became heavier, that something broke inside me. Something I was not going to be able to repair. My own daughter, my own blood, the girl I lifted on my shoulders at the shipyard, the girl who hugged me at her graduation. That girl was destroying me. And there were the proofs. The first document was a guardianship form, already filled out, already signed. It said, Patient, William Sanchez. Age, 81 years. Diagnosis, severe cognitive deterioration. Inability to handle personal and financial affairs. Signed by Dr. Vincent Cameron, the doctor Dolores spoke about. The doctor I had never seen in my life. I read the date, the signature, the stamp. All legal. All in order. All fake. I do not have cognitive deterioration. I have a clear mind, clearer than ever. But there it was, on an official paper, with stamp and signature, the lie that was going to bury me. Then came the messages, printed from the phone, text conversations between Lisa and Richard. I read them one by one, with shaking hands. If we declare him incompetent, we can sell the lake house without his signature. Judge Taylor is on our side. I already spoke to him. There will be no problem. We just need Vincent to sign the report, and that is it. Judge Taylor. The same man who was sitting at my dining table, eating my lamb, drinking my wine, while my daughter kicked me into the kitchen. He knew. He was part of the plan. Everyone was part of the plan. And I was the idiot who had not realized it. There were emails, too, printed on white sheets. Emails between Lisa and Isabel. The cousin, the one with the poisonous laugh. Cousin, take advantage before the old man is gone. That house facing the water is worth a fortune, $2 million at least. Do not be stupid. And Lisa replied, Everything is ready. In 2 weeks he goes to the nursing home and we can put the house up for sale. I grabbed the counter so I would not fall. $2 million. That is what the lake house was worth. The house my father built with his hands. The house where Martha planted the bougainvilleas. The house I promised her I would never sell. That is what I was to them. $2 million with legs. I kept reading. My bank statements. Movements I had not authorized. Transfers signed with my name. $500 to an unknown account. $800 to another. $300 more. I did not sign that. I never signed anything. But there was my signature. Forged, perfect, just like mine. They robbed me. They robbed me while I slept in the back room. They robbed me while I ate boiled chicken without salt. They robbed me while they treated me like a nuisance. And I did not notice. I was so busy trying to make them love me that I did not see how they were looting me. At the bottom of the folder was a brochure, shiny, with photos of gardens and smiling old people. Pine Grove Senior Living. Specialized care for seniors. Inside, a budget. Private room, full board, medical attention 24 hours a day, and a handwritten date. Admission scheduled for March 15th. I counted the days. 2 weeks. In 2 weeks they were going to lock me up. They were going to take me out of the house, put me in a home, and keep everything. Keep the lake house. Keep my savings. Keep Martha's ring that they had surely already sold. Keep everything. And I was going to end my days in a room smelling of disinfectant, looking out the window, waiting for death. But the worst was at the end. A last message between Lisa and Richard. I read it 3 times to make sure I understood it well. I just need him to hold it together for tomorrow's dinner, to behave well in front of the judge and the guests. After that, it does not matter if he eats with us or not. He goes to Pine Grove and that is it. Finally, we will be able to live in peace. Finally, we will be able to live in peace. That is what my daughter wrote. My daughter, the one I carried on my shoulders, the one I dressed, fed, educated, the one who cried with joy when Sophie was born. That same daughter wanted me to disappear so she could live in peace. I closed the folder, left it on the counter. I stood still for a moment. Outside, the laughter continued. The clinking of glasses. A loud laugh from Isabel. Richard's voice telling a joke. Inside the kitchen, silence. Only the hum of the neon light. The dripping of the faucet, the beating of my heart in my ears. I did not cry. I did not scream. I did not throw anything on the floor. I stood still, breathing slowly, with my hands resting on the cold marble. Something inside me had died. The hope, the illusion that my daughter loved me. The faith in family. All that died in that kitchen, next to the smell of lamb and betrayal. But something else woke up. Something dark, something hard, something that had been asleep for 81 years, and that night opened its eyes for the first time. I straightened up. I breathed deep. I looked at the folder. There were the proofs of everything, of the forgery, of the theft, of the lie. There was the rope with which they were going to hang me, but it could also be the rope with which I would hang them. I put my hand in my shoe. I took out the paper with Ralph's number. I looked at it. Tomorrow I was going to call him. Tomorrow I was going to tell him everything. Tomorrow I was going to start defending myself. I hid the folder under my shirt and went up to my room. I needed to think. I needed to decide what to do with all this pain. I went up the stairs with the folder pressed against my chest, as if it were a wounded animal that had to be protected. The dinner continued downstairs. The laughter, the drinks, the music, they did not see me go up. They did not care. To them I no longer existed. I entered my room and locked the door. I sat on the bed. I put the folder on my knees. And I stayed there, still, in the dark, listening to the beating of my own heart. Outside life went on. Inside me everything had stopped. I looked at the folder. I touched it. I ran my fingers over my name written on the tab. William Sanchez. Guardianship. Those words together. My name next to that word. It was like seeing my own tombstone before dying. I opened the folder again. I reread the messages. I reread the transfers. I reread the nursing home budget. Every word entered through my eyes and burned me inside. The old man. That is what they called me. The old man. As if I had no name. As if I had no history. As if 43 years building ships meant nothing. As if having raised a daughter with sacrifice was not worth a dime. The old man. A nuisance. A formality. A signature to get before he dies. I closed the folder. I pressed my eyes with my hands. I was not going to cry. I was not going to give them the pleasure of making me cry. But the pain was there, in my chest, like a clenched fist that did not let me breathe. I heard the dinner ending, voices saying goodbye, car doors, engine starting, silence. Afterward, Lisa and Richard's footsteps going up the stairs. They passed in front of my door. They did not knock. They did not ask if I was okay. They kept going straight to their room. I heard the door close, muffled voices, laughter. They were happy, celebrating, probably toasting because everything had gone according to plan. The old man went to the kitchen and did not bother us anymore. Perfect. Now they can sleep in peace. But I was not going to sleep. I was going to spend the longest night of my life, looking at the ceiling, thinking, remembering, deciding what to do with all this poison they had given me to swallow. At 2 a.m, I heard footsteps in the hall, soft. Slow, they stopped in front of my door. I saw the shadow of feet through the crack underneath. Someone was there, standing, on the other side. My heart jumped. Lisa? Richard? Did they come to look for the folder? I stayed still, holding my breath. 1 minute, 2 minutes, then the shadow moved. The footsteps walked away. I heard a door open at the end of the hall, Sophie's room. It was her, my granddaughter. She had come to look for me, and did not dare to enter. She stayed there, on the other side, wanting to knock and unable to do it. I wanted to get up. I wanted to open the door and hug her, but I did not. I was afraid Lisa would hear her, that she would punish her for coming to see me. So I stayed in bed, with a broken heart, listening to my granddaughter walk away alone down the dark hall. What do I do now? The question spun in my head like a top. Do I call Ralph? Do I confront Lisa? Do I leave this house without saying anything? I thought of Martha, of what she would do. William, cowardice is worse than defeat. She told me that once, when I wanted to quit a job where they treated me badly. But this was different. This was not an unfair boss. It was my daughter, my blood, the girl I carried on my shoulders who called me daddy with her mouth full of caramel. How does one face that? How do you look into the eyes of someone who came out of you and tell yourself to destroy her? Because that was what I had to do. Destroy her. Or let myself be destroyed. At 4 in the morning I got up. I needed water. I needed to move. I opened the door slowly and walked down the hall toward the bathroom. Passing in front of Sophie's room, I stopped. I rested my hand on the door. It was cold, closed. But I knew she was there, on the other side, probably awake, probably crying. My 16-year-old granddaughter, trapped in this house just like me, with a mother who locked her up when she tried to do the right thing. "Forgive me, honey," I whispered. "Forgive me for getting you into this." I wanted to open the door. I wanted to enter and tell her everything was going to be okay. But I did not, because I did not know if it was true. I kept walking toward the bathroom. I wet my face with cold water. And when I looked up and saw myself in the mirror, I made a decision. I was going to wait one more day. Just one. I was going to see if Lisa showed any sign of regret. Any gesture of humanity. Maybe seeing me in the morning she would feel guilt. Maybe remembering what she told me at dinner would hurt her. I was her father, after all. Something of the girl from the shipyard had to remain inside. Something of the love she once had for me. I was going to give her a chance. Just one. If she came to apologize, if she looked me in the eyes and told me she had been wrong, I was going to put the folder away. I was going to forgive her. I was going to forget everything and start over. But if she did not, if the next day she treated me the same as always, then I was going to call Ralph, and I was going to destroy them all. I went back to my room. I lay in bed, but I did not sleep. I spent the hours looking at the ceiling, listening to the noises of the house, waiting for dawn. When light started coming through the window, I heard the first movements. The shower, the footsteps, the doors. Richard going down to the living room, Lisa talking on the phone. I waited. I waited for her to come up, to knock on my door, to enter and tell me, "Dad, I am sorry. What I told you last night was wrong." I waited an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Nobody came up. Nobody knocked. Nobody came. It was as if I did not exist. As if the back room were empty. I got up. I got dressed. I went down the stairs. Lisa was in the kitchen, drinking coffee, looking at her cell phone. She did not even look up. "Good morning," I told her. My voice sounded hoarse, rusty from not sleeping. She kept looking at the screen. "Good morning, Dad. Nothing else. Not an apology. Not an explanation. Not even the decency to look me in the face." I poured myself a glass of water. I drank it slowly. I looked at her, waiting, praying inside that she would say something, that she would show something, anything. But she stayed there, with her finger sliding on the screen as if I were invisible, as if last night she had not kicked me from her table in front of 12 people, as if she had not called me an embarrassment. I left the glass in the sink. I left the kitchen. I went up to my room. I took out the paper with Ralph's number. There was nothing left to wait for. There was nothing left to forgive. That woman was not my daughter. She was my enemy. But before calling Ralph, I needed to do something. I needed to talk to Sophie. I needed to tell her I loved her. That none of this was her fault. That I was going to fight, but I was not going to abandon her. I went down to the hall of her room. The door was locked. From the outside, Lisa had locked her in. Her own daughter, like an animal. I knocked on the door slowly. "Sophie, honey? It is me, Grandpa." Silence. Then a small voice. "Grandpa? Yes, honey, it is me." "Open the door." "I can't." Mom locked me in. She has the key. I felt rage rise up my chest like lava. My granddaughter locked up, for loving me, for trying to save me. I clenched my fists. "Honey, listen to me. I am going to get you out of here. I promise you. I am going to fix all this." Silence. Then a sob. "Be careful, Grandpa. Mom is very angry." I went back to my room. I put the folder in a bag. I put Ralph's paper in my pocket. I had to get out of that house. I had to act. But before that, I needed to talk to Sophie one more time. I needed her to know the truth, to know why her grandfather was going to do what he was going to do. I went down the stairs. Lisa was not in sight. I walked toward the bedroom hallway, but then I heard the kitchen door. Footsteps approaching. They were not Lisa's. They were softer, lighter. I turned around, and there was Sophie, barefoot, in star pajamas, messy hair, red eyes from crying. She had managed to get out. I do not know how, but she had managed to get out. She looked at me from the kitchen door, trembling, and said the words that broke my soul. "Grandpa, are you okay?" I hugged her without thinking. I squeezed her against my chest as if she were going to disappear. She smelled of chamomile shampoo, just like her grandmother. I felt her tears wetting my shirt. "Forgive me, Grandpa," she told me. "Forgive me for doing nothing." I stroked her hair. "You have nothing to forgive, honey, nothing. But I need you to listen to me. I need you to talk to your mom." We sat on the kitchen floor, leaning against the counter, speaking in whispers. Sophie took my hands and looked me in the eyes. "Grandpa, I heard my parents. Many times. They talk about you when they think I am asleep." Her voice broke. "I know what they plan. I know about the house, about the doctor, about the nursing home. I want to help you, but I am scared." I squeezed her hands. They were cold, trembling. "Scared of what, honey?" "Of my mom. Of what she will do to me if she finds out I told you." I felt my chest split in two. My 16-year-old granddaughter, afraid of her own mother, trapped in that house just like me. Prisoner just like me. But she had the courage to come look for me. She had the courage I did not have for months. I held her face with both hands. I looked her in the eyes. "Sophie, listen to me carefully. I need you to talk to your mom. I need you to tell her I know everything, that I saw the papers, that I know about the guardianship, about the judge, about the lake house. Tell her to stop, that she is still in time." Sophie looked at me with wide eyes. "Grandpa, she is not going to listen to me. She never listens to me. Try, honey, please. Maybe if she hears it from you, she will reconsider. Maybe if she knows you know too, she will feel shame." Sophie stayed quiet for a moment. I saw the doubt in her face, the fear, but I also saw something else. I saw decision. I saw courage. "Okay, Grandpa, I am going to do it. I promise you." She hugged me again. "I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, honey, more than you imagine." That night I slept for the first time in weeks. A light sleep, interrupted, but sleep nonetheless. And I dreamed of Martha. I saw her at the lake house, sitting on the porch, looking at the sea. She smiled at me. "Not long now, William. Not long now." I woke up with a light heart. For the first time in months I felt something similar to hope. Maybe Sophie could convince Lisa. Maybe my daughter would reconsider. Maybe hearing her own daughter asking her to stop, she would feel shame. Maybe something remained of the girl I raised. A remnant of love, of decency, of humanity. I clung to that hope like a castaway to a plank. I did not know the plank was rotten. I did not know I was going to sink again. The next morning I stayed in my room, waiting. I listened to the noises of the house, the shower, the footsteps, the doors. Then I heard the voices. Sophie and Lisa, downstairs in the living room. At first they spoke low, then the tone started to rise. Lisa's voice became sharp, cutting. I did not understand the words, but I understood the tone. Something was going wrong. Very wrong. I got up from the bed. I walked to the door. I opened it a little. The voices came up the stairs like smoke. "You have no right." That was Lisa. "He is my grandfather." That was Sophie. "He is my father, and I know what is best for him." Silence. A slam. Furious steps coming up the stairs. And me there behind the door, with my heart in my throat, expecting the worst. The door to my room flew open. Lisa entered like a hurricane. Her face was red, eyes bloodshot, lips pressed into a white line. I had never seen her like this. Never in 60 years. "What did you tell my daughter?" She spat the words at me. "What did you put in her head?" I got up from the bed. My legs were trembling, but I stood my ground. "I told her the truth, Lisa. The truth you hide from me." She laughed. An ugly laugh, dry, humorless. The truth? What truth? Your old man paranoia? Your fantasies? She took a step toward me. Sophie is a child, Dad. Do not drag her into your delusions. Everything we do is for your own good. For my own good. They were robbing me for my own good. They were locking me up for my own good. Lisa, I saw the papers, I told her, looking her in the eyes. I saw the guardianship. I saw the forged signatures. I saw the messages with Isabel and Richard. I saw the nursing home budget. She paled for a second. Just a second. Then she recovered her color and her fury. You went through my things. You entered my kitchen and went through my private things. They were on the counter, Lisa, in plain sight of anyone, because it is my house, my kitchen, and you have no right to go through anything. She raised her finger and poked me in the chest. Listen to me well, Dad. Those papers are to protect your assets, because you can no longer do it, because you are confused, because you are senile. And if you do not like it, we can move everything up and take you to Pine Grove tomorrow. I heard the crying before hearing the words. It came from Sophie's room at the end of the hall, the cry of a child, of a wounded animal. Lisa left my room with long strides. I followed her. She stopped in front of Sophie's door and banged with her fist. Open this door. The crying stopped. I told you not to talk to him. I forbade you. You disobeyed. Silence. Lisa took a key out of her pocket. She opened the door. She entered. I stayed in the hall, listening. Mom, please. Do not give me please. You are grounded. No phone. No going out. Nothing until I say so. The door closed. I heard the key turn from the outside. Lisa had locked her own daughter. She had punished her for trying to save her grandfather. My heart broke into pieces. That night I stayed awake, listening. At 11, Richard's voice in the hall. He was talking on the phone. Vincent, we need to move up the date. Yes, this week. The old man is suspicious. Silence. No, he is not going to resist. He is weak. Confused. Yes, that. Cognitive deterioration. Exactly. Silence again. Friday, then. Perfect. He hung up. I heard his steps walking away. Friday. 3 days. In 3 days they were taking me to the home. In 3 days they were locking me up. In 3 days I was going to lose everything. I sat on the bed with my heart beating like crazy. I could not wait any more. I could not give them more time. If I did not act now, they were going to destroy me. I got up. I opened the drawer. I took out the folder. And I took the paper out of my shoe. Before leaving, I checked the folder again. I searched among the papers to make sure I had all the evidence. Then I saw a message I had not read before. It was at the bottom, crumpled, almost hidden, a message from Isabel to Lisa. Cousin, if the old man resists or makes a scene, we can tell Vincent to put aggressive dementia in the report. That way they can commit him by force. Vincent signs whatever, you know. Aggressive dementia. Forced commitment. That was what awaited me if I resisted. They were going to declare me crazy. They were going to lock me in a psychiatric ward. They were going to drug me until I did not even know my name. I felt fear like a cold wire down my back. But I also felt rage. A black, thick rage that filled my chest and gave me strength. My granddaughter tried to save me, and for that they punished her. They locked her in her room like a criminal. They took her phone, took her freedom, for defending me, for loving me. Sophie was the only good person in that house, the only one who still had a heart, and I could not let her suffer because of me. I had to act. That night, when the whole house was silent, I got out of bed. I dressed slowly, without making noise. I put the folder in a bag. I took the paper out of my shoe and put it in my pocket. I went down the stairs, stepping on the edges, so they wouldn't creak. I opened the back door. I went out into the dark street and walked to the main avenue. There I hailed a taxi. To Main Street, please. Attorney Henderson's house. It was time to call Ralph. It was time to fight. I arrived at Ralph's house at 2 a.m. An old 2-story house with a garden in front and iron fences. I rang the doorbell. Once. Twice. Silence. I rang again. Harder. Finally a light turned on upstairs. Footsteps on the stairs. The door opened. Ralph appeared in pajamas, with messy hair and eyes swollen from sleep. He looked at me for a second without recognizing me. Then his eyes went wide. William? What happened? What are you doing here at this hour? I could not speak. My throat was closed. I only showed him the bag with the folder. He looked at my face. He saw something that scared him. He took me by the arm and made me come in. Come, sit down. I am going to make coffee. I sat on his sofa, and when the coffee was ready, I told him everything. From the beginning. Without stopping, Ralph listened without interrupting. I spoke and he took notes in a notebook. I told him about the back room, about Dolores, about Martha's letters thrown in the trash, about the wedding ring that disappeared, about the humiliation at dinner, about Lisa's whisper, about the folder in the kitchen. I showed him every paper, the guardianship forms, the messages between Lisa and Richard, Isabel's emails, the bank statements with the forged transfers, the nursing home budget. He read it all, slowly, with a face getting more serious. When he finished, he left the papers on the table. He looked me in the eyes. William, this is not carelessness. This is not a worried daughter making bad decisions. He paused. This is a criminal plan. Ralph got up and started walking around the room. He spoke fast, like thinking out loud. Forgery of signature, asset fraud, attempted illegal guardianship, financial abuse of an elder, false imprisonment. He stopped in front of me. William, brother, with this I can destroy them. Your daughter, your son-in-law, the cousin, the fake doctor, everyone. I stayed looking at him. The word destroy them sounded strange to me. She was my daughter, my blood. But she was also the woman who stole Martha's letters from me, the one who took my ring, the one who was going to lock me in an asylum to keep the house, the one who punished Sophie for loving me. I breathed deep. Do what you have to do, Ralph, but first I need to protect my granddaughter. Ralph called Brian that same night. He explained everything. My son took the first bus from Ohio. He arrived in Chicago at 6 in the morning, with a backpack and a face undone from not sleeping. When he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. He hugged me tight, like when he was a child and was afraid of the dark. Dad, forgive me. I should have come sooner. I should have called more. I should have realized. I hugged him back. Son, I did not call you either. I was ashamed. I was afraid you would think I was crazy. We cried together in Ralph's living room, 2 men hugging with 50 years of silence between us. Afterward, we wiped our faces, sat down, and started to plan the defense. Ralph worked 2 days without stopping. He built the complete case. He called a judge friend to get my accounts frozen before Lisa could take out more money. He revoked all authorizations and powers of attorney I had signed without knowing. He prepared a notification for Judge Taylor, who had dined at the house and was an accomplice. He contacted an expert to verify the forged signatures. And most importantly, he located Dolores. He called her on the phone and she accepted to testify. Mr. William is a good man, she told Ralph. I saw everything they did to him, and I am not going to stay quiet. When Ralph told me, I felt my eyes fill with tears. Dolores, the maid who brought me coffee with cinnamon. Dolores had not forgotten me. Mr. Robinson also testified. Ralph went to his house and explained the situation. The old man was indignant. William is my friend. I saw him disappear little by little. I saw him get thin, fade, lose his light. I rang the doorbell, and the daughter did not let me see him. She said he was resting, but I knew it was a lie. That is kidnapping, counselor. That is a crime. Mr. Robinson signed a written statement. He told everything he saw. The times they slammed the door on him. The times he saw William looking out the back room window, like a prisoner. The times he found him on the street, skinny, with dark circles, scared. That man was not confused, Mr. Robinson wrote. That man was a prisoner. On the 3rd day, Ralph looked at me and said, William, we have everything ready. We can proceed whenever you want, but first I need you to make a decision. I stayed quiet, waiting. Can I go to the house with the court officers and do everything legal, formal, clean? Or you can go first, talk to your daughter, tell her what you have to tell her, and then we arrive? I thought about it for a moment. I felt the rage in my chest, the desire to humiliate her like she humiliated me. But I also felt something else. Something older, deeper. I needed to look her in the eyes. I needed her to know that I knew. I needed to tell her everything I had kept inside for 30 years. I am going to go first, I told Ralph. I need to talk to her, just once. I arrived at the house on a Thursday at noon. I opened the door with my key. I entered slowly. I heard voices in the living room, Lisa and Richard. They spoke in low voices, with papers on the table. Planning something. Always planning something. I walked to the living room. I stood in the doorway. They looked up. Lisa opened her mouth. "Dad, where were you? We looked for you everywhere." Richard stood up. "Mr." William had us worried. I looked at both of them, so elegant, so fake, so full of lies. "Sit down," I told them. My voice sounded firm. I did not recognize myself. "I have something to tell you." They looked at each other. They sat down slowly. I entered the living room, but I did not put the folder on the table. Not yet. First I needed them to listen to me. I walked closer to Lisa. I looked her in the eyes. "Daughter, I know everything. I saw the folder in the kitchen. I saw the guardianship forms. I saw the messages with Isabel. I saw the forged transfers. I saw the nursing home budget." She paled. Richard moved uncomfortably. "Dad, can I explain?" "No," I cut her off. "Now you are going to listen to me." My voice was trembling, but I continued. "I carried you on my shoulders when you were a child. I took you to the shipyard so you could see the ships. I sold my grandfather's watch to pay for your university. I paid for your wedding with the money I had saved for my old age. I took care of your mother for 8 months while you appeared once a week with a box of cookies." I paused. "I buried Martha with my own hands. And when you invited me to live here, I thought you loved me. But you did not love me. You wanted the lake house. You wanted my accounts. You wanted me to die fast to keep everything." Lisa opened her mouth. Tears ran down her face. "Dad, it is not like that. I love you. All this was for your own good." "For my own good?" I interrupted her. "Throwing my wife's letters in the trash was for my own good. Selling Martha's wedding ring was for my own good. Locking Sophie up because she tried to defend me was for my own good." Richard stood up. "Mr. William, this is a misunderstanding. We can solve it as a family without bringing in lawyers, or—" "There are already lawyers," I told him. "There is already a complaint. There is already an investigation." Both went mute. "Attorney Ralph Henderson has all the papers. The forged signatures. The messages. Everything. At this moment he is preparing the formal notification." Lisa put her hands to her mouth. Richard let himself fall onto the couch. I looked at them one last time. They were right about one thing. I am a nuisance. I am a nuisance to their plans of robbing me. And I am going to be a nuisance until the last day of my life. I left that house without looking back. I walked to Brian's car, waiting for me on the corner. My son hugged me. "Are you okay, Dad?" "I am better than ever, son." It was true. I felt my chest light, my head clear. For the first time in months I felt I could breathe. But my work was not finished yet. Because Lisa had a brunch organized for Sunday. A meeting with all her elegant friends, with Judge Taylor, with Isabel, with Richard's partners. All the accomplices were going to be there. And I was going to be there too, with Ralph, with the court officers, with all the evidence. "Brian," I told him while he started the car, "on Sunday we are going to end this. On Sunday the show ends." Sunday arrived with sun. A bright, clean day, as if the sky knew something important was going to happen. I was at Ralph's house since early, drinking coffee, reviewing the papers for the last time. Brian walked nervously around the living room. The 2 court officers waited in the car, with the notifications ready. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Ralph asked me. "I can go alone. You do not have to see her again." I thought about it for a second. I remembered the whisper at dinner, Martha's letters in the trash, the sold ring Sophie locked in her room. "I have to be there," I told him. "I need to see their faces when the theater falls down." Ralph nodded. He put on his jacket. He took the briefcase. "Then let's go. Brunch starts at 11. We left the house. We got in the car, and we drove toward Lisa's last show. We arrived at 11:30. Ralph's car parked in front of the house, behind the officer's car. I stayed a moment looking at the garden through the window. The table was set with white tablecloths, fresh flowers, champagne glasses shining under the sun. Soft music came out of the speakers. The guests were already there. The in-laws, Arthur and Mary, with their expensive clothes and stone faces. Amanda Miller, with her huge hat. Carl, Richard's partner. Judge Patrick Taylor eating a croissant, and Isabel the cousin, the one with poison in her smile. Everyone sitting, drinking juice, laughing, as if the world belonged to them, as if nothing had happened on Thursday. Lisa had gathered them all. Perfect. That saved me having to look for them one by one. I opened the garden gate and entered. Behind me, Ralph with his black briefcase, Brian with a serious face, and the 2 court officers with folders under their arms. 5 men walking slowly among the flowers and the white tablecloths. The silence was instant, as if someone had cut the sound of the world. Laughter died out. Conversations died. Everyone looked at us. Lisa had a glass of champagne in her hand halfway to her mouth. She froze, eyes wide open, mouth half open. She knew that I knew. I told her on Thursday, but she did not expect this, did not expect me to come to her brunch in front of all her friends with a lawyer and court officers. She did not expect me to destroy her on her own stage. I walked toward her, slowly, staring at her without blinking. I stopped 3 feet away. I could smell her French perfume, that one that turned my stomach. I could see the fear in her eyes. It was no longer the confident woman from Thursday who shouted at me that I was senile. Now she was pale, trembling. The glass clinked in her hand. "I warned you," I said in a low voice, so only she would hear. "I told you there was a complaint. I told you there was a lawyer. But you did not believe me. You thought the old man was confused. You thought I would not dare." I paused. "You were wrong, daughter. You were wrong about everything." The champagne glass fell from her hand. It crashed against the floor. The glass shattered. The golden liquid spread over the tiles. No one moved to clean it up. Ralph stepped forward. He opened the briefcase on the table, among the flowers and fruit plates. He took out a thick folder and placed it next to the croissants. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said with a clear, professional lawyer voice, "I regret interrupting breakfast, but I have to inform you of a serious legal situation." He opened the folder. He took out the papers one by one. "Here we have forged guardianship forms, forged signatures on banking documents, unauthorized transfers, messages proving conspiracy to commit asset fraud, and an attempted forced commitment without consent." The papers remained exposed on the table, next to the flowers and the champagne, proofs of treason in everyone's view. The guests looked at the documents without understanding, or pretending not to understand, but they understood. Everyone understood perfectly. Ralph turned around and looked at Judge Taylor. The judge was sitting at the end of the table with a half-eaten croissant, trying to become invisible. "Judge Patrick Taylor," said Ralph. The judge looked up. His face was pale, sweaty. "You dined in this house 2 weeks ago. You were present when Mrs. Lisa humiliated her father in front of all the guests. And according to these messages I have here," he held up a printed sheet, "you were aware of the guardianship plan and had promised to facilitate the paperwork. That is called prevarication, Judge, and bribery and abuse of authority." The judge turned red as a tomato. That is a wrong interpretation," he stammered. "We will see in the investigation," said Ralph. "I recommend you get a good lawyer, one who is not you." Isabel got up from the chair. She grabbed her purse with trembling hands and started walking toward the door. She walked fast, with short steps, looking at the floor, trying to escape like the rat she was. Ralph stopped her with a word. "Mrs. Isabel Sanchez." She froze. "Your name appears in 11 messages, 11 conversations where you advise your cousin on how to keep Mr. Williams' assets. Take advantage before the old man is gone. That house is worth $2 million. Vincent signs, whatever. Do those phrases ring a bell?" Isabel stood still in the middle of the garden. She was shaking. Black tears ran down her face, ruining her expensive makeup. She no longer smiled, no longer laughed with that poisonous laugh. Now she cried with fear. "I recommend not leaving the city," said Ralph, "and not deleting any messages from the phone. That would be obstruction of justice." Richard took a step forward. His face was undone, sweaty, eyes moving from side to side, looking for an exit that did not exist. "Gentlemen, this is a misunderstanding. We can talk about it like civilized people. I didn't." His voice broke. He looked at Lisa, looking for support. She did not look at him. Her eyes were fixed on the broken glass pieces of the shattered cup. Richard swallowed saliva. Then he did what cowards do when they are cornered. He betrayed his accomplice. "It was Lisa's idea," he said. "Everything was her idea. I just followed her. She convinced me. She told me it was the best for the old man. I did not want to hurt anyone. Lisa raised her face. She looked at him with a hatred I had never seen in her. "Shut up, you idiot!" she screamed at him. "Shut your mouth!" But it was too late. Richard had spoken. The court officers were writing everything down. Then I heard footsteps on the stairs. Fast, light. I turned around. It was Sophie. She was running down, barefoot, with messy hair. She must have heard the screams from her room. She reached the garden and stopped. She looked at us all with wide eyes. She saw the papers on the table. She saw her mother pale, her father trembling, the guests petrified, the judge sweating. Then she saw me, and she ran. She ran toward me and hugged me with all her strength, with all her soul, as if she had been waiting months for that moment. "Grandpa," she told me, crying against my chest, forgive me for not screaming, for not speaking sooner, for staying quiet while they hurt you." I hugged her tight. She smelled of chamomile shampoo, just like Martha. "You have nothing to forgive, honey, nothing. You were the only one who tried to save me, the only one who had courage in this house." I let go of Sophie. I walked toward Lisa for the last time. She was still standing among the broken glass, with red eyes, destroyed face, runny makeup. She was no longer the elegant woman who organized gala dinners. She was a cornered animal. I stood in front of her. I looked her in the eyes. "I already told you everything I had to tell you, daughter, on Thursday. In the living room. Everything I kept inside for years." I paused. "But I want you to know one more thing. Here I am, still standing, still whole, still with a clear mind. I am not the senile old man you told Dr. Vincent about. I am not the nuisance you wanted to lock in an asylum. I am William Sanchez, shipbuilder, widower of Martha, father of 2 children, and I still have a voice. I still have dignity. I am still alive." She opened her mouth. She said nothing. Tears ran down her face, but I had no more words for her. I had nothing left. Lisa collapsed on the garden sofa. White. Empty. Destroyed. The guests started to leave little by little, walking fast toward their cars, with heads down without saying goodbye, without looking back. No one wanted to be associated with that scandal. Richard sat in a chair and covered his face with his hands. Isabel cried in a corner, with her purse pressed against her chest. Judge Taylor left almost running, talking on the phone with someone, probably another lawyer. The court officers collected the papers, took notes, photographed the documents. I stayed standing in the middle of the garden, holding Sophie's hand and Brian by my side. Ralph approached and put a hand on my shoulder. "You did it, William. It is over." I looked around. The trampled flowers, the stained tablecloths, the broken glasses, the stage of the lie destroyed. But I did not feel vengeance. I did not feel triumph. I felt relief. As if after years underwater I could finally breathe. The following weeks were of papers, of procedures, of statements. Lisa and Richard were under investigation for asset fraud, forgery of documents, and financial abuse of an elder. My accounts were frozen and recovered. The money they had stolen, returned. The forged signatures, annulled. Dr. Vincent Cameron lost his medical license and was reported for false diagnosis. Judge Patrick Taylor was suspended while his actions were investigated. And Isabel disappeared. They say she went to Argentina to hide in a relative's house. I do not care. I do not want to know more about her. That woman no longer exists for me. None of them exist. I only want to live what I have left of life in peace. I moved with Brian to Ohio, a small house in a quiet neighborhood, with a garden in front where orange trees grow. The first day I arrived, I breathed the air and felt something I had not felt in a long time. Silence. But not the silence of loneliness. Not the silence of the back room smelling of humidity and oblivion. This was another silence. A good silence. A silence of peace. Brian gave me the biggest room with a window to the garden. The sheets smelled clean, the mattress was firm, and when I lay down that first night, I slept. I slept 8 hours straight, without pills, without fear, without hearing voices planning my ruin. I slept like I hadn't slept since Martha died. Sophie comes to visit me every month. She takes the bus from Chicago on a Friday and stays until Sunday. We sit in the garden under the orange tree and talk for hours. "Grandpa, tell me about Grandma Martha," she asks me. And I tell her. I tell her about the Sunday meat pies, about the dances in the kitchen, about the letters she wrote me when I was on board. I tell her about the day we met at a port dance, when she was 18 and had black hair down to her waist. I tell her about the day I proposed, with a ring I bought with 3 months of salary. I tell her everything so Martha stays alive, so Sophie knows her, so someone else remembers her. One Saturday, Dolores arrived to visit me. She traveled from Chicago by bus, with a bag full of homemade bread and a thermos of coffee with cinnamon. When I saw her at the door, my eyes filled with tears. We hugged for a long time without speaking. Afterward, we sat in the garden and drank coffee together, like before when she brought it to the back room. "Mr. William, you are the bravest man I know," she told me. "You faced your own daughter. You faced all those powerful people. Not anyone does that." I shook my head. "I am not brave, Dolores. I just got tired of being afraid. I got tired of letting them trample me. Sometimes courage is nothing more than that. Getting tired of being afraid. 2 months ago I traveled to Baltimore. I took the bus early, alone. I needed to do something that was pending. I arrived at the cemetery at 11 in the morning. I walked among the graves until I found Martha's. It was clean, with fresh flowers someone had placed. Maybe a neighbor. I knelt on the grass. I put my hand on the tombstone. The marble was cold, but I seemed to feel her warmth. "My love," I told her. "I did it. I did not let myself be destroyed. I protected what we built together. The lake house remains ours. No one is going to erase you from the walls. No one is going to throw you in the trash." I stayed there a long while, talking to her, crying, telling her everything. When I left, I felt she accompanied me. 3 months after everything, a letter arrived. Lisa's handwriting. My pulse trembled when I opened it. It said, "Dad, I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. I know what I did has no name, but I needed to write to you to tell you I am sorry. I do not know at what moment I turned into this. I do not know when I lost the way. But I lost it, and I hurt you. I hurt you in the worst way. I do not expect you to answer. I do not expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I think of you every day, and that I regret it. Your daughter, Lisa." I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it and put it in a drawer. I did not answer her. Maybe one day I will, but not yet. I am not ready yet. People ask me if I forgave her. If one day I am going to forgive her, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. What I do know is that I do not hate her. Hate is a prison, and I was already a prisoner too long. I was a prisoner in the back room, prisoner of shame, prisoner of the fear of being left alone. I do not want another prison. I do not want to carry that weight. So I do not hate her, but forgiving her is another thing. Forgiving is letting go of the pain, and the pain is still there. Every time I remember the whisper at dinner, every time I remember Martha's letters thrown in the trash, every time I remember Sophie crying, punished for defending me. That pain does not go away with a letter. That pain takes time, a lot of time. I learned something in these months, something that cost me 81 years to understand. Family is not blood. Family is not the last name, nor genes, nor obligation. Family is respect. It is presence. It is knowing someone cares for you without expecting anything in return. Dolores, who brought me coffee with cinnamon when no one looked at me, is family. Mr. Robinson, who warned me they were dimming me, is family. Ralph, who left everything to defend me, is family. Brian, who came from the South and opened his house to me, is family. Sophie, who dared to speak when everyone was silent, is family. They are my family. The ones who were there, the ones who stayed, the ones who saw me fall and helped me get up. Martha's ring appeared. It was among the assets Lisa had sold to a jewelry store in the wealthy district. Ralph tracked it down. He bought it back with money recovered from the accounts, and brought it to me one Sunday. When I opened the red velvet box and saw it shining there, with the small emerald I gave her for 25 years of marriage, I could not hold back the tears. I took it out of the box, looked at it for a long time, kissed it, and put it on a silver chain hanging from my neck. Now I wear it always close to my heart, where Martha should be. Sometimes I touch it over my shirt and I feel she is there, watching over me, as she always did. Now I walk every morning. I go out early, when the air is still fresh, and walk around the neighborhood for an hour. I greet the neighbors. I pet the dogs. I look at the trees, the flowers, the sky. I went back to eating well. I went back to sleeping well. I went back to looking in the mirror and recognizing myself. The man from the shipyard is coming back. The engineer who built ships is coming back. William Sanchez is coming back. Sometimes I think of Martha and smile. Sometimes I think of Lisa and it hurts, but I keep going. Because that is what us old guys from the port do. We keep going. Against the wind. Against the current. Against everything. I did not eat badly. I was not an embarrassment. I was not confused or senile or incapacitated. I was just in the way of my daughter's plans. I was in the way because I owned a house she wanted to sell. I was in the way because I had bank accounts she wanted to empty. I was in the way because I was alive. But I did not let myself be destroyed. I did not let myself be buried. And now I am here, telling you my story so you know it is possible. That it is always possible. That age does not matter, nor the situation, nor fear. It is always possible to raise your head and say enough. Because a man is not what others say about him. A man is what he decides to do with his pain. And you? Have you ever been made to feel you were in the way? That your presence was a bother? That everything you gave was worth nothing? If so, I want you to know you are not alone. That your story matters, that your pain is real, but so is your strength. If this story touched your heart, I ask you to share it. Subscribe to the channel and leave me a comment telling me what you felt, what you thought, if something similar happened to you. Your message could be the light someone else needs to take the first step. Until the next story.